Hello guys, a very warm welcome to RPA Academy, and today we are going to talk about Companies Act, that is chapter 10 auditors, in which we are going to cover from section 143. Okay, so let's begin with our today's class. In this particular section we are going to talk about the powers and duties of our auditors. Okay, so we are basically going to talk about auditing standards, right to access accounts, mandatory reporting elements, and specific fraud reporting obligations of the auditors. Fine. So here a very simple way to remember this particular part is to understand that first of all our auditors are going to ask the right to access, then they will inquire with the officers, then they will report it, they will go ahead with government audit, then branch standards will be there also for auditing standards, and then if there is any kind of fraud, and then we will talk about the penalty part. So who is an auditor, you would have understood very well, right, in the last class. Now here we are saying that an auditor has a right to access at all times to what? To the book of accounts. Okay, to the book of accounts. Then we are going to talk about the vouchers, as well as we are saying here that other relevant records. Fine. So what do we mean here? We are saying that it doesn't matter whether these records are kept with the registered office, another office, or another other location. So let us say if there is an organization XYZ Limited, okay, and it has kept or maintained its books at Delhi office, then we are also saying that okay, the inventory records are at Noida warehouse, and then we are also saying that some vouchers are at its branch office. Fine. So what happens? Nothing. The auditor can demand access to the relevant records, and auditor can also ask officers that give me further information and explanation I need to perform my audit. Okay, so here basically we are saying that we need right to access information as well as explanation. So every auditor of a company shall have a right to of access at all times to the book of accounts, vouchers, whether kept at the registered office of the company or at any other place, shall be entitled to require from the officers of the company such information and explanation as may be considered necessary for the performance of his duties as an auditor. Amongst other matters, inquire into the following matters. So now they can have 6 specific matters in which they must inquire. First we are talking about loans and advances. So we are saying that auditor checks whether the loans and advances are properly secured. Then we are saying that okay, are these loans are given on the terms that are not prejudicial to the company or its members. So basically suppose there is a company XYZ Limited, and it has given a 50 crore rupees of loan to whom? To some of another company, some of the companies, right? Now what happens? The loan is here supposed to be secured by a property worth, let us say, 60 crore rupees. Fine. Now here we are saying that but the property's actual worth is just 10 crore rupees. Now what will happen? Here we will see that auditor will ask, is this loan actually properly secured or not? Also suppose this XYZ Limited has given a loan at an extremely low interest rate to a related party and causing significant loss to this XYZ. So the auditor will examine whether the terms are prejudicial to the interest of the company or its members or not. Okay. Next, whether transactions of the company which are represented merely by book entries are prejudicial to the interest of the company. So we are saying that sometimes a transaction will exist only on paper, okay, no transactions have actually taken place. So here XYZ Limited, what it is doing, let us say that it has recorded 20 lakh receivables from A Limited. Okay, now what will happen? You will simply see that there was actually no genuine transaction, it was merely a general entry. So the auditor asked, is this book entry transaction harmful to the company? Okay, so book entry without any substance will be a situation in which our auditor is actually investigating. Now Here we are going to talk about another part where we are talking about the sale of securities below the purchase price. So here, when the company is not an investment company or a bank company, then this particular section will be applicable, otherwise not. Okay, so the company must not be an investment company or a banking company. So here we are saying that, okay, let us say this particular XYZ Limited purchased shares for rupees 100 lakh rupees. Later it sold them for just 70 lakh rupees. So what is happening here? Auditor will check whether the company securities have been sold at a price less than their purchase price. So you just have to remember that you cannot do this, and if you are doing that, then auditor may question you, right? So whether so much of the assets of the company as consist of share, debenture and other securities being sold at a price less than at which they were purchased by the company. Remember the exception, okay? Not any investment company or banking company. Now, specific inquiries. What we are saying here? We are saying that, okay, what can happen that there must be some loans that we have shown as deposits. Okay, the company here, what is happening? Let us talk about this XYZ Limited only. It has given a 5 crore rupees of loan to here, let us say A Limited. Now what happened? Instead of showing this loan of 5 crore rupees, the company shows deposits of 5 crore rupees. Auditors have to investigate then, and why it is happening? Because classification matters. So a loan and a deposit have different accounting or legal implication. So whether loan advances made by the company had been shown as deposits. So okay, so the classification is also important. Now let's talk about personal expenses. So here there might be situation that an MD of an organization or some CEO have spent, let us say 3 lakh rupees or 30 lakh rupees on a personal family welfare vacation, and now they are showing it as the operating expense of the company, or the company is recording it as a business travel expense, right? So basically this is the misuse of company's funds. So auditors are checking whether those personal expenses have been improperly charged to the revenue account. Understood? So here company's expenses are not equal to directors or any other officers' personal expenses. Now specific inquiries. So in this specific inquiries, what we are saying? We are saying that, okay, let us say that few shares were allotted for cash, but was the cash actually received or not? Suppose this XYZ Limited says that, okay, what I have done, the shares worth 10 lakh rupees, okay, the shares worth 10 lakh rupees were sold for cash consideration of 1 crore rupees. The auditor may ask, did you actually receive these 1 crore rupees or not? Now why we are asking these questions? Because here what may happen, that books said, okay, the share capital received is 1 crore, but bank record shows that only 40 lakh rupees were received. So the auditor will investigate whether the account and balance sheets are correct, regular and not misleading in nature. Okay, so here just don't think that, okay, the auditors are checking whether about the share allotment. Auditors are checking whether the shares that were allotted were for cash, and in that condition whether the cash was actually received or not. Okay, so whether it is stated in the books and documents of life of the company that any shares have been allotted for cash, whether cash has actually been received in respect of the such allotment, and if no cash has actually been received, whether the position as stated in the account books and balance sheet is correct, regular and not misleading. Okay, understood? So here we are very strict about what you are showing in your books, because auditor has a legal liability all over all those things. So now you know what is a holding company. Let's talk about Tata Trust. Now Tata Trust has majority shareholding in Tata Motors, TCS and other Tata organizations, right? So what is happening here? Their management and everything is being decided by them, right? And ownership stakes are there. So we are seeing that auditor of a company which is a holding company. Okay, now a holding company has to present the financial statements in consolidated manner, right? So we are seeing that, okay, let us say here XYZ Limited is a holding company where X, Y and Z Limited are 3 subsidiaries or associate companies. Okay, now XYZ's auditor can access record of these subsidiary or associate companies. Okay, they can ask for their book of records as well, insofar as they relate to consolidation of financial statement. Why? Because XYZ has to prepare consolidated financial statement. So here XYZ's consolidated balance sheet is including X Limited, Y Limited and Z Limited. Now let us say that auditor needs X Limited's financial information to verify the consolidated accounts. The relevant records of X Limited can be accessed to, right? So shall have the right of access to the record of all its subsidiaries XYZ and associate companies insofar as it relates to the consolidation. Okay, now let's talk about reporting part, auditors report. So it is section 143 clause 2, in which we are simply saying that okay, our auditor has examined the account. Now auditor has to make a report, and to whom it is making the report? To the members of the company. Okay, so here we are saying that the auditor examines whether the financial statements given are actually representing a true and fair view. So this is just like the heart of auditor's report, where we are saying that okay, the basically XYZ's book has some assets and liabilities, right? We are saying that in the assets they have shown 100 crore rupees, but in the liabilities part they have just shown 30 crore rupees. So auditor discovers that 20 crore rupees of assets are fictitious. So financial statement may not give a true and fair view. So auditor must appropriately report this. Do you guys understand that what is a true and fair view? Because this is the heart of this part. Okay, true and fair view. See here what I am saying. I simply mean that the financial statements are based on genuine transactions. Okay, so these must not be materially stated or misstated, right? So genuine transactions must take place, actual transaction must take place, and fair means they are presenting the company's financial position fairly without misleading the users or the stakeholders, right? So here it is about whether the financial statements are actually honest or are presenting the truthful data or not, right? So here you will see, auditor shall make a report to the members of the company on the accounts examined by him on every financial statement or other documents required by or under this act to be laid before the company in general meeting. Okay, so the report shall, after taking in account provisions of the act, accounting and auditing standards and matters to be included in the audit report under the provisions of this act, there must be basically there under and under any order made under subsection 11 to the best of his information and knowledge. So basically these must give a true and fair view of the state of the company's affairs, and at the end of the financial year such matters as may be prescribed. Okay, now let's talk about what must the auditor state. Okay, so here there are several matters we are going to discuss in this particular part. So here they are saying that did the auditor get all the necessary information? So here whether he has sought and obtained all the information and explanation which to the best of his knowledge and belief were necessary for the purpose of the audit. If yes, report accordingly. But what if it's a no? Tell me what will happen then? Qualification or negative reporting may arise. So auditor may ask for bank statements, management refuses to provide them. Then what is going to happen? Auditor cannot simply ignore this matter. Okay, then they will see that were the proper books maintained or not. So whether in his opinion proper book of accounts as required by the law have been kept by the company, so far as appears from his examination of those books, and proper returns adequate for the purpose of his audit have been received from branches not visited by him. So we are saying that auditor reports whether proper books of account required by the law have been maintained. Also, if there are branches the auditor did not personally visit, were proper returns received from those branches. For example, we say that okay, XYZ Limited has its head office in Delhi, it has its warehouse, inventory warehouse in Noida Also we are seeing that it has some branch offices, let us say in Chennai. Now auditor is not going to visit Chennai, he will check whether Chennai had sent adequate financial returns for audit purposes or not. Okay, this is clear. Next, auditors report content. So here what we are saying that branch auditors report, suppose here XYZ Limited has a branch, okay, we said that its branch is in Chennai, fine. Now what we are saying that the branch accounts are audited by another auditor. The branch auditor sends a report to the company's auditor. Branch accounts are audited by the auditor, and then we are simply sending all those records, right? The branch auditor is sending those report to the company's auditor. The main auditor must consider the report while preparing the final audit report. Fine. So what is happening here? We are preparing a branch auditor report, then it will come to the company's auditor report, and then we are going to prepare the final report. So whether the report on the accounts of any branch office of the company audited under subsection 8 by a person other than the company auditor has been sent to him under the proviso to that subsection, and the manner in which he has dealt with it in preparing his report. So whether the company's balance sheet and profit and loss account dealt with in the report are in agreement with the books of account and returns. So what we are saying in this particular part, we are saying that, okay, do the balance sheet and profit and loss account agree with the book of accounts and returns? For example, let us say that books are showing that there was a sale of rupees 50 crore rupee, right? But here the profit and loss account is showing a sale worth 55 crore rupees. So there is a difference of 5 crore rupees, which is huge. So that means something is wrong. So the auditor must investigate and report appropriately. Now, whether in his opinion the financial statement comply with the accounting standards. What we are saying here, we are saying that auditors must state whether financial statements are complying with applicable accounting standards or not. For example, we are saying that company is required to follow an applicable accounting standard for revenue recognition, right? Now here it deliberately recognizes revenue prematurely. Auditor identifies the issue. This may affect the audit opinion or report. Okay, so here we have to make sure that the financial statements are complying with the accounting standards. So next, adverse effect on the company's functioning. So auditor must make observation or comments, okay, in for what? It is saying that on financial transactions or matters that have an adverse effect on the company's functioning, that has unfavorable impact. Okay, so what we are saying here is, let us say that company was repeatedly entering into some highly disadvantageous transaction that were damaging its financial position. Okay, one time we have done this, it might be a fault by us, right? But if we are continuously or repeatedly doing this thing, then what does it mean? That someone is actually making some frauds or fraudulent activities. So the auditor may need to comment on such matters. Fine. Now we are talking about director's disqualification. So here we are saying that auditor has to report whether any director is disqualified from being appointed as a director under section 164(2) or not. Suppose there is a director A who is disqualified, and disqualified under which section? Of course, section 164(2). And now we are saying that auditor needs to report this matter. Okay, so here this is a very good important question, right? This is a very small statement, but it is very important. Whether any director is disqualified from being appointed as a director under section 164 subsection sections 164 subsection 2. So basically what is the meaning here? That you have to provide all those things in your report. Okay, now qualifications, reservations, adverse remarks must be made by the auditor. So suppose auditor is finding some problems with the accounting records, right? For example, let us say that company has not provided sufficient evidences of 10 crore rupees based inventory. Now what happened? Auditor may need to qualify the report depending upon the circumstances. So if auditor finds a serious accounting or reporting issue, it must be appropriately highlighted by him or her. So any disqualification, reservation or adverse remarks related to the maintenance of accounts and other matters connected therewith. Okay, now we are talking about our section I. So here we are saying that the auditor reports whether the company has adequate internal financial controls. Basically their board of directors have made proper policies, procedures or not, related to what? We are saying that here with reference to the financial statements and whether they are operating effectively or not. So here we are talking about two parts. First is your adequacy and another one is your operating effectiveness. So here you will see that are the controls properly designed and are those controls actually working. So we have to focus on both the aspects. So fine. Now such other matters as may be prescribed. So here what is happening? Let us say company has a rule. Okay, just let me give you an example for this part. First of all, let us say there is a company. Okay, now company says that any payment above 10 lakh rupees requires CFO approval. That's the control. But suppose the CFO never approves such payment, so then control exists on the paper and it is not operating effectively, right? Now other prescribed matters, what kind of prescribed matters can be there? Can you tell me? So here we are saying that auditor must report such matters as may be prescribed. So the basically the list is not here told, but we have to understand it, right? Now negative answers. What is this? Negative answers. So here we are saying that if a matter required in the audit report is negative or qualified, in that case what will happen? The auditor will or has to, or better say must state the reasons, right? So question is, were proper books maintained? If auditor says that no, proper books were not maintained, in that scenario he will just write no and stop. No, he has to explain why. Okay, so here negative or qualification, you have to state the reasons. So where any of the matters required to be included in the audit report under this section is answered in the negative or with the qualification, the report shall state the reasons therefore. Next part, government companies and special role of CAG. So what we are talking about here? See here we are saying that ABC Limited, basically let us take an example, okay, is owned or controlled by the government. So the CAG has a special role, right? So we are saying that for a government company covered by the provisions where CAG is appointing the auditor, it can also direct the manner in which accounts need to be audited. Okay, so here what is happening? CAG is appointing the auditor and CAG is appointing the auditor. After appointing them, it is giving the directions that how they have to work, and then here auditor will audit, and then auditor after auditing will provide the report to whom? CAG. Fine. So in case of a government company or any other company owned or controlled directly or indirectly by the central government or by the state government, or governments or partially by the central government, whatever it is, right? So here what we are saying that CAG has appointed the auditor under subsection 5 or subsection 7 of section 139 that we had discussed. Now it is directing such auditor the manner in which the accounts of the company are required to be audited. Thereupon auditors appointed shall submit a copy of audit report to the CAG, which among other things include the directions, if any, issued by CAG and the action taken thereon, its impact on the accounts and financial statement of the company. Now, let's talk about our next part. For a government company covered by the provision, CAG appoints the auditor. CAG can also basically direct the manner. We have understood this part. Now we are saying that CAG's supplementary audit can also be there. So after receiving this audit report, CAG is provided 60 days of time, okay, 60 days of time in which we are saying that you can exercise certain rights. So this is a very important part in which you will see that CAG may conduct supplementary audit and another additional audit of the financial statement through authorized persons, and then comment upon or supplement the audit report. So there can effectively primary audit plus CAG supplementary review, okay. So here you will see CAG supplementary audit will be conducted by of the financial statement by CAG by such person or as person as he may authorize in his behalf. So here we are saying that suppose, okay, there is a government company audited by auditor X. Now what will happen? Auditor X will submit his report to our dear CAG. Now what will happen? It will receive a notice that okay, I want to examine this particular area or this particular part more closely. Then what will happen? Here you will see that CAG will conduct a supplementary audit, then provide comments, supplements, basically that will supplement the audit report. Those comments must be sent to the person entitled to audited financial statement, okay, the person that must be provided with the audited financial statement. Second, placed before the annual general meeting and also at the same time and in the same manner as the audit report. So for purposes of such audit require information or additional information to be furnished to any person or persons so authorized by such person or person and in such form as the CAG of India may direct to, and comment upon or supplement such a audit report. Also provided any comments given by the Comptroller and Auditor General of India upon supplement to the audit report shall be sent by the company to every person entitled to the copy of annual financial statement, okay. So all the people whom we have provided this audited financial statement with the copy, we have to provide the CAG's supplementary audit reports or comments, observations under subsection 1 of the section 136 and placed before annual general meeting as well, okay, at the same time and in the same manner as audit report. So wherever you are providing this audit report, provide the supplementary audit report or the comments or observations made by you. Now let's talk about test audit. Now what is this test audit? Can someone tell me? See here, CAG says that okay, I am ordering a test audit if it considers it necessary for companies covered by the specified provisions. So in the supplementary audit, it is just like an additional examination or review, but for test it is actually testing audit of account. The audit that was done is being tested, okay. So here you will see, without prejudice to the provisions of this chapter, CAG may in case of any company covered under subsection 2 of section 123 deems necessary by order cause test audit to be conducted of the accounts of such company. The provisions of the section 19A of the Comptroller and Auditor General's duties, powers and condition of the Service Act shall apply to the report of such a test audit, okay. So here we are basically seeing that CAG is specifically testing the accounts. Now let's talk about branch audits. Now what are these branch audits? See, if a company has a branch office, let us say our XYZ Limited has a branch office in Chennai, right? Now I am saying that okay, it has a branch office, so the branch accounts can be audited. If it is the branch is in India, then whom? By the company's own auditor, okay, or here another person qualified to be appointed as auditor under the act and appointed appropriately. But if the branch is, let us say, in some other country outside India, let us say it is in Tokyo, then what will happen? The branch can be audited by first of all the company's auditor, right? Also it can be audited by an accountant or other person qualified under law of which country? Our own country or foreign country? Foreign country, okay. So here basically this is a very important part. We are saying that the branch auditor will prepare a report and then send it to the company's auditor. The company's auditor then will consider or deal with it in the main audit report. Fine. So here you will see, just a second, yeah. whether a company has a branch office, the accounts of that office shall be audited either by the auditor appointed by the company, hereafter in this section referred to as the company's auditor, under this act, or by any other person qualified for appointment as an auditor of the company under this act, or appointed as and appointed under section 139. Where the branch office is situated in a country outside India, the accounts of the branch office shall be audited either by the company's auditor or by an accountant or by other person duly qualified to act as an auditor of the accounts of the branch office in accordance with the law of that foreign country, and the duties and powers of the company's auditor with reference to the audit of the branch and branch auditor, it shall be in the manner as may be prescribed. Right now, as I told you, the branch auditor shall prepare a report on the accounts of the branch examined and send it to the auditor of the company, who shall deal with it in his report in such manner as he considers necessary. Now let us move towards another part which is very important, auditing standards. So every auditor shall comply with the auditing standards. So accounting standards were there for the financial statement and accounting treatment, right? In the very similar way, we have accounting standards that tell that how the audit should be conducted. So here every auditor shall comply with these auditing standards, right? So now we are saying that who lays down these auditing standards? Can someone tell me? So here central government notifies it, okay? Central government may notify auditing standards and it will consult with a relevant advisory body. See, until those standards are notified, standards specified by ICAI are deemed to be the auditing standards, okay? Understood? So here we are saying that to consult with whom? National Advisory Committee NAC on accounting and auditing standards. By notification lay down accounting auditing standards, provided that until any auditing standards are notified, any standards or standard of auditing specified by ICAI shall be deemed to be the auditing standards. Fine. Now let us talk about additional matters in those statements of auditor report. Audit report. So here we are saying that central government can direct that for specified classes or type of companies, audit report must contain additional statements on specified matters. For an example, government here is saying that okay, for a particular class of company, okay, for a particular class of company, auditor must report on X, Y, Z matters, right? Now what will happen? The auditor must include those matters in the report, okay? So may, after consultation with the advisory committee, by general or special order, direct in respect of such class or description of the companies, that the auditor's report shall include a statement on such matters as by specified therein. Now committee consultation. So what we are saying here, this is also very important. We are saying here that suppose there is an auditor while performing his duties has reasons to believe that an offence of fraud is being or has been committed by the officers or employees, the auditor has a duty to report it to the prescribed mechanism, okay? So here, until the National Financial Reporting Authority is constituted under section 132, government may hold consultation required under this subsection with the committee chaired by officers of the rank of Joint Secretary or equivalent in the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Committee shall have the representatives from ICAI and then industry chambers, also special invitees from National Advisory Committee on Accounting Standards and Office of CAC. So this is not very important for you. So they are telling about that if you want a committee consultation. Let us talk about the most important part, that was fraud reporting, that I was telling you. So here you have to remember that if the fraud involves more than 1 crore rupees or equivalent to 1 crore rupees, in that scenario we have to report to the central government. But if the fraud is less than 1 crore rupees, then we have to report to the audit committee of the board, okay, and if constituted, and if there is no audit committee, then we are going to report to the board of directors. Fine. So here Notwithstanding anything contained in this section, if an auditor of a company in course of the performance of his duties as an auditor, he believes that an offence of fraud involves such amounts as may be prescribed is being or has been committed. Basically, a fraud has been committed, and this is the thing that our auditor believes. So, in the company by its officers or employees, the auditor shall report the matter to the central government within such time and in such manner as may be prescribed. So, if the fraud is more than or equal to 1 crore rupees, we are reporting to the central government. If it is less than 1 crore rupees, we are here reporting to the audit committee of the board ACB or to the board of directors if there is no ACB. Fine. This is clear to you. Now, here they are also saying that provided that in case of fraud involving lesser than specified amount, auditor shall report to the matters to the audit committee constituted under section 177 or the board in other cases within such time and in such manner as may be prescribed. Further, the companies whose auditors have reported frauds under this subsection to the audit committee or board of directors but not reported to the central government shall disclose the details about such frauds in the board of directors report in such manner as may be prescribed. Okay. Now, protection for good faith. Now, this is very important. Suppose an auditor reported something that there is some kind of suspected fraud honestly and in good faith, then auditor will not be considered to have violated another duty merely because he made this report under section 143(12). Okay, so good faith fraud reporting is always protected. So no duty to which an auditor of a company may subject to shall be regarded as having been contravened by the reasons of his reporting the matter referred to this subsection if it is done in good faith. Now, mutatis mutandis. Now, what is this? This is also very important. So, what we are saying here, we are saying that this section 143 is applicable with necessary modification to cost accountants, company secretary in process, okay, in practice. So, basically 143 is not about only statutory financial auditors, fine. So, here you will see the provisions of this section shall mutatis mutandis apply to the cost accountant conducting cost audit under section 148 or conducting secretariat audit under section 204. So, basically we are saying that the cost accountant who is conducting cost audit under section 148, company secretary in practice conducting secretariat audit under section 204. So, here all these basic necessary applicable, all those clauses are applicable to them also. The section 143 is applicable to them also, and if they are not here reporting any frauds, then what will happen? Non-compliance is going to attract penalties. So, here we are saying that if an auditor, cost accountant or company secretary in practice does not comply with the provisions of subsection 12, what they shall see here, if it is a listed company, then there will be a penalty of 5 lakh rupees, and if there is any other company, then there will be a penalty of 1 lakh rupees. So, listed company 5 lakh and any other company 1 lakh rupees of penalty will be there. Okay, clear? I hope this part is clear to you. This particular section 143 is over, where we have talked about right to access, report, statement, reason, CAG appointment or CAG appointing other auditors, right. Then we have talked about the 60 days limit for supplementary audits. Then we talked about test audit, we talked about branch audit, we talked about auditing standards, we talked about central government notifying these standards, additional reporting if required, right. Then we talked about fraud reporting, protection in the good faith, and then extension as well as extension to whom? Cost accountant as well as your company secretary in practice, and we talked about the penalty part, right. Now, let us move towards our section 144. In this section, we are saying that what auditors cannot do, okay, what they cannot do, what services they cannot render. So, here you will see that an auditor is supposed to be an independent person, right. So, here let us say that you are the auditor of XYZ Limited, right. Now, what will happen? You will see that at the same time ABC or this XYZ Limited is asking you, can you also maintain our books? So, here there will be a problem. So if you are preparing the accounts and then you are auditing the same accounts, there is a conflict of interest. So here you will be ending up checking your own work, and that's why some services are restricted. Why? Because of conflict of interest, right? So now let's talk about these particular part. An auditor appointed under this act shall provide the company only such other matters, services as are approved by the board of directors or audit committee of the board, as the case may be, but which should not include any of the following services, whether such services are rendered directly or indirectly to the company or holding company or subsidiary company. So what are the services that they cannot provide? First of all, let's talk about, see here what we have said, that an auditor appointed under the act cannot provide direct or indirect services, right? So the company, holding company and subsidiary company, all these restrictions are extending to all these three parts, right? Now we are saying that here there is an organization of, let us say, let us start with beginning. ABC Limited is there. What is the company? And also let us take another organization, XYZ Limited. Let us consider this is what? This is a subsidiary of ABC. Okay. Now what I am saying? I am saying that here, first of all, auditor cannot say that I will be providing the prohibited services to XYZ instead of ABC. Okay, this is also not going to work. And then here we are saying that, okay, let us say ABC Limited has appointed PQR and company as their auditor. Okay, now ABC says that, okay, PQR and company, please maintain our accounting books also. No, this is not allowed. Auditor would effectively preparing the accounts and auditing the accounts, and there will be a conflict of interest, right? Then next part, internal audit. So here we are saying that the statutory auditors, the auditors who are checking that if we are complying with all the rules, regulations, laws or not, cannot simultaneously provide internal audit services to the company. Okay, so here internal auditors are evaluating the internal processes and controls. Okay, so all those procedures basically or the guidelines or the limits, everything are basically first of all we are checking whether the controls are in place, whether all the procedures, all the policies are being implemented or not, also if these policies and procedures are correct or not. Okay, so these are evaluated by internal auditors. Statutory auditor may later have to rely on those or basically evaluate those systems, so there will be an independence problem. Design and implementation of any financial information system. So suppose we are saying that, okay, ABC has asked the auditor, what it is asking ABC? It is saying that please design our accounting of financial information system. Auditor designed the system. Later, auditor audits financial information generated by that system. There is going to be a problem. What? The auditor may effectively be auditing a system he or she has designed already by themselves, so that's why it is also prohibited. Okay, then do you know about actuarial services? So people in commerce side must be knowing about it. So actuarial services are involving calculation or assessment of the risk. Okay, this is a very high paying job. So calculation or assessment of risk. Now what will happen? Here you will see that we are also talking about future financial obligation. For example, valuation of pension obligation or insurance related liabilities. So if the statutory auditor provides actuarial services to the company, then also they are prohibited. Then we are talking about investment advisory services, where suppose ABC asks its auditor that should we invest 100 crore rupees in this particular company XYZ or not, then what is happening here? Auditor is providing investment advice, so this is also not permitted. Why? Because the auditor should remain independent from management's investment decisions. Then investment banking services. Here we are saying that investment banking services are also prohibited, because let us say that this ABC Limited wants to raise 500 crore rupees for itself. Okay, now what will happen? You will see that it will ask the auditor that please act as our investment banker for this issue. Auditor cannot provide such services to the company, so they will be stopped or prohibited. Then rendering of outsourced financial services. See, ABC says that okay, instead of maintaining our finance function ourselves, we will outsource it to our auditor. For example, you can go with financial processing. You can go with what? Financial processing. Also, you can even go with finance related outsourced services. So this is also prohibited. So auditors cannot be the particular person where we are using them as the outsourced finance department. Okay. Then management services are also prohibited. So let us say that okay, this ABC says that our CFO has resigned. Until we hire another CFO, you manage our finance department. No, this is not allowed. The auditor's job is to just audit management's financial reporting, not become management. Okay. So auditor cannot become the part of management. Why? Because they are auditing them. So they cannot become that part of this management. Any other kind of services as may be prescribed. Okay. So here basically this list is also not necessarily limited to these 8 specifically mentioned services, right? So if additional services are prescribed under the law, we have to follow them also. I hope this is clear to you. If there is any doubt, you can directly ask me. Otherwise, you have to understand that this particular section was all about auditor's independence. If a service creates a situation where the auditor is checking his own work or becoming the part of a management or has some conflict interest or is not remaining independent, in that condition section 144 will restrict him, right? Now let us talk about our next section, that is section 145, where we are going to talk about auditors signing the audit reports. So here we are saying that the person appointed as the auditor shall sign the auditor's report. So here shall is the most important word. For example, ABC Limited is the auditor. Okay, ABC Limited is the auditor for ABC Limited and ABC and Co Limited लिख सकते हैं. And then here we are saying that for whom, let us say Sharma company. Fine. Now what will happen? You will see that audit report is issued. Who is going to sign it? The appointed auditor. Who is the appointed auditor? Here the ABC company, ABC and Company Limited. So they will sign the auditor's report in accordance with the applicable requirements. So okay. So person appointed as an auditor of the company shall sign the auditor's report. Now section 146. So it talks about basically how we have to be an auditor to attend the general meeting. Suppose there is this ABC Limited. Okay. Now I am saying this ABC Limited is holding its annual general meeting. Company send notices to all the shareholders, as we had seen that it was also important, right? Now does the auditor need to know about the meeting? Yes. Here you will see that all notices and communication relating to the general meeting must be forwarded to the auditor. Fine. So what you will see here, that does the auditor has to speak? No, not necessarily. Here the auditor has the right to be heard. If a matter concerning the auditor's role comes up, the auditor can put across his or her views, right? So here you will see all notices of other communication relating to any general meeting shall be forwarded to the auditor of the company. In general meeting, auditor shall have right to be heard or put across his view on any part of the business which concern him as the auditor, right? So here suppose there is basically ABC Limited's AGM going on and a shareholder asks why has the auditor qualified, whether the auditor has qualified the financial statements or not. Then the auditor is present, right? So auditor has the right to explain his or her views regarding the relevant matter. Fine. Section 147, let's talk about punishment for contravention. So what is this punishment for contravention? Can someone tell me that what are we trying to talk about in this particular section? See here we are saying that there must be penalty, right? So there must be penalty. We have to first of all identify that who has violated the law. So first of all we are going to be focused on 3 levels: company, then officer in default, and auditors who had violated the provisions, right? So here we are saying that in any provisions of section 139 to 146, if it is contravened, the company is punishable with the fine of minimum 25,000 rupees and maximum 5 lakh rupees. Okay, so this is also very important. Suppose ABC Limited violated a requirement under section 144 by allowing its auditor to render a prohibited service, then who can be punished? The company, and the company may face how much fine? 25,000 rupees to 5 lakh rupees fine under section 147. What about the officer in default? They will face a fine of 10,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees, right? And the auditors who have contravened, okay, here you will see they are also going to face some penalties. So the normal penalty will be 25,000 rupees and it may extend up to 5 lakh rupees or 4 times the remuneration of the auditor, whichever is less. Fine. Now think that if there is an auditor who has willfully been deceiving the tax authorities, the creditors, company, its shareholders, then what will happen? Then there will be an imprisonment or the jail up to 1 year, and there will be a fine of higher amount, right? That is more than here, it can be up to 25 lakh rupees and it cannot be less than 50,000 rupees. Also, it can be up to 8 times the remuneration of this auditor, whichever is here less, right? Now let us talk about section 148. See, here you have to understand that what is cost audit. See, imagine there is a company that is manufacturing cement. Its financial accounts are telling that there is a sale, there are some expenses. Also, it will tell us that how much profit we have earned, right? So if the sale is, let us say, of 50 crore rupees, expenses are of 45 crore rupees, then the profit will be of how much? 5 crore rupees, right? But the management or regulator may want much more details. So here we will say that, okay, tell us about raw material cost per ton, then tell us about the labor cost per ton, power, factory overhead and other costs too. Now all the detailed information is captured through the cost records, and all those cost records will be checked independently through the cost audit. Now we have two separate concepts in this section 148, where once we are talking about cost records, also we are talking about cost audit, right? So certain companies may be required to maintain the cost record, and who is deciding that? Central government, which tells us that if a company has, let us say, turnover of 35 crore rupees or more than that, okay, in that condition what will happen? Here this particular company will provide cost data for specific items related to utilization of raw material or labor, and that must be included in the books of account, right? And this audit must be conducted by whom? The cost accountant. Fine. And who is appointing this cost accountant or cost auditor? So here we are saying that cost auditor will be cost accountant in practice conducts the cost audit, and it is appointed by board of directors, and the appointment is must basically made on the prescribed basis. Okay, so we have to understand that here who is recommending this cost auditor? Our basic auditing committee. So company shall within 30 days from the date of receipt of a copy of cost audit report shall send the report to whom? To the central government. So overall what is happening here, we have seen that okay, we have a cost accountant in practice who will conduct the cost audit, and here also we are talking about the turnover part. We are saying that cost accounting will ask that what did it cost to make the product or service, right? So here central government has been talking about the applicability depending upon the class or category of company, product, services and prescribed threshold of 35 crore rupees. Fine. Understood? So here we are also saying that a statutory auditor independently examines the financial statement, and cost auditor will independently examine the cost record. So if the same person does both, the independence framework will become problematic, right? So here we will talk about that one company must have two separate audit roles. Fine. I hope this is clear to you. If you are having any doubt, you can ask me. Also, you can like the video and also subscribe the channel if you have not done yet, and you can also hype the video. Thank you so much guys. Bye bye. Take care.